When it comes to underlying data, that is a term that is used quite regularly by a lot of FPL experts out there. But what does that actually mean? Is it XG, XGIA, points, bonus points, goal involvement? There's a lot of different terms, but there's quite a few there that aren't actually picked up. I've created my own data set based on the information that's provided on the Fantasy Premier League site, and I've used this to actually drive my decisions on how I select for my team each week. Currently, for the last 4 weeks in a row, I've been in the above average with pretty good stats so far, currently sitting in the top 100,000, which has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to give you a little bit of insight in what I actually use to drive to make my decisions. Do you want to get your team reviewed by myself? Make sure to drop a follow on my Instagram down below and get your team submitted, which I will be doing at the end of today's video for game week 5 with all the ones that have been done so far. And if you do want to get it done for game week 6, just repeat what I said there and make sure to follow me off on Instagram. And if you do want to stay up to date with all the best FPL content, make sure to drop a sub down below. We do our weekly videos on FPL over on the channel, so make sure to get involved. Maybe I can help you out and maybe make some decisions that you might not have noticed. So without any further ado, let's have a look at what the underlying data actually means. So looking at this, it might look a lot of very overwhelming stats because there's a lot of zeros here, there's everything, because we've only had 4 weeks of data. But based on this, I still use it to the best of its ability to get what I want out of it. Looking here, you've obviously got Haaland at the top and Buemo, and these are all just based on the points, but it does go right down for the first couple of pages. I'm not going to be picking up the Burnley defenders and stuff, not just yet. If there's a player I'm specifically looking at, or a game week that I'm targeting, which is very important as well, I'll be bringing a lot more players into that for how I drive my decisions. But I download all these stats, copy and paste them in here, and then I use all this to actually create some more additional data. So I've got points per minute, XG per minute, XG assists per minute, minutes per XGI involvement, and then bonus points per game, which is going to be a lot of zeros at the minute, but realistically it is going to help me. You can see here as well that you've got your team selected by, not selected by, involvement, bonus points system, bonus points, saves for obviously goalkeepers, red card, yellow cards, and so on. You get them stats there, but there's a lot of here that are actually very useful, because you've got your starts, which is very good, but this is always just going to be a 1 or a 0. You've your total points, which we can work out for that game how many points they got per minute, which is very good for later on. Minutes played, which is very important to actually capitalize on, is a player going to be useful or not. But you're not going to be looking at, like, say last year when you had Reece Nelson for Arsenal, who came on, got 2 goals and assist or whatever it was, and he got bonus points galore, but didn't really get many points out. I use this minutes played as well with a threshold of over so many minutes per game to actually drive that decision as if that player going to be worth it. Goal saves, assists, blah 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 blah, or sorry, goal scored and so on. So we have all this data, and it goes down for a lot of the results here, and you can see the results as well based on the opponent they had. So Saka against Fulham, 2 each, but he did get 8 points that game. Even scrolling down, we can look at some more obscure players down the bottom here. Colwell, who's not been doing great, 3-1 against West Ham, 1 point, played 90, and so on. So with all this data here, I can then actually bring it in to create pivot tables, which you use for this here, which actually drives, is a player worth it or not. So we can see here that Brian Mbeumo is obviously one of the best ones to go for, because according to his price, he's very cheap and he's absolutely raking in the points. See Nicholas Jackson, who's not got a lot of points, thank God, because I won't put him in my team basically out of principle now. He's a hill I will die on. But he's been getting good average minutes of XGIA, but not very well results on him. A lot of the experts are saying that you need to bring him in, or if you have him, don't sell him. I don't necessarily believe that. The data can always be interpreted in a way that you want to pull the data out. That's the magnificent thing about data. You can digital storytell it. You can make it tell you what you want in a way that you need to if you actually find the right specifics behind it. So everyone's saying bringing in Nicholas Jackson just because he's got an average high goal involvement, but if we were then to say let's bring in the rating and influence in a game, so if we were to just go up here, bring in the table, field list, and let's bring in his influence. His influence sum is 69, and look at everyone else around him. You're looking down at Rashford, who we also know has not been doing very well. Wissa is obviously, he's been doing great, but his price is very good as well. Whereas Jackson's obviously a lot higher. Wissa's price keeps going up and up. So there's a lot of things you can actually use to drive that data set. This is a good overview right now about what I actually use to pull all this data to make the decisions. And basically when I'm doing your team reviews, I have a look at the players that you could use, who's going to be more beneficial. So looking at team 1 here, full credit to you for not being an idiot and using any of your chips yet, especially triple captain, because we see all the people use that. If you're not saving that for a double game week later on in the league, you're an absolute melon. You've got Sterling, which I assume you did jump on the bandwagon because very little people had him in for the Luton game. If you did, fair play. Realistically, you want to get more Spurs assets in, especially in the midfield there with Son and Maddison. I would be maybe downgrading Watkins to a Awoniyi because he's obviously going to get a lot more points going forward with the fact that Aston Villa is going to have a lot more European football. Then you could maybe upgrade Sterling to Maddison or Son, depending on obviously price changes and stuff. If you do have 0.1 in the bank and that you have to use that transfer this week so you don't have the Spurs asset for the Arsenal game, maybe have a look at downgrading Watkins, saving that one up, and then you could maybe do a swap for Baldock to Kaburi for later on. Then you can have him for the double game week. If he starts to play, we're going to find out a little bit more information about that, but recommend that you bring in Son or Maddison for after the Arsenal game week fixture, by maybe making some money by downgrading Watkins, because as we've seen that Archer scored the other day too. Definitely keep him on the bench though, as they are playing Spurs this weekend. But that would be my advice to you. Get rid of Sterling, upgrade into a Spurs player. Having Udogie in has been brilliant. Chilwell playing left wing is going to go well in the long run, and Estupinian maybe not against Man United this week, but looking at who you've got, maybe bring in Rico Henry for Estupinian this week might be something that may be worthwhile. But then again, that's more of a coin toss because Estupinian is definitely going to get you some points on the board. But that should be your long-term plan anyway. Get rid of Sterling, get Maddison and Son in. Moving into Team 2, you've got a good captain choice this weekend with Maddison. Having Cash, Burnham, Pedro Porro with Ederson in defence. Yeah, you're a melon head man. You've used all your chips. You're hopeless at this point. But if you want to have a miracle, you crack on. Yeah, you're never going to win your league if you play like this. But having Maddison as your captain this weekend, that's absolutely fine. Fernandez and Saka and Buemo has been doing you bits as well. Sterling vice captain is not really going to make a difference because Maddison will start. You've brought in Darwin, which if you had him for the 2 goals, fine, but going forward, not that good. Matty Cash, you must be gutted. He got 2. You probably brought him in and got you minus points, if I'm calling that correctly. But as you're sitting there with no chips available and you've got Julian Alvarez on the bench, which you should really be bringing him on for probably... maybe not. Well, I don't know. That's more of a toss-up as well, having 5 midfielders. I wouldn't be playing Sterling anyway. Away, who's going to do better? Man City or Chelsea away? Probably Man City. So I'd bring on Alvarez for Sterling, but you've used your chips. You're going to be finishing the top 4 million by the end of the year. Moving over here to Team 3, you've got Nicholas Jackson captain, Numpty, Haaland not captain. You should be having him. You've got Son and Maddison, which there's no way you had both of them. You brought in Matty Cash after he had a good week. Saka, Bruno Fernandes, Gusto. Looks like you've played your bench boost already. I can't see if you've used your wild cards, which you may as well have as well. This team is not going to go far in terms of the points. You might have a good couple of game weeks. Having Mateta on your team, you probably brought him in just after he scored against the Wolves game the other week. But having Nicholas Jackson captain, I don't see it happening. You should really be captaining Son. For Sheffield United at home, that is an absolute steal, especially if he plays through the middle. But the fact that you've got a team like this, you're not going to go far. And you've played your bench boost already, unless you had played game week 2, and yeah, you're hopeless, and good luck to you because you're not going to go far. Okay, moving over to this team, it's quite similar as well with Fernandes, Foden, Saka. Looks like you brought Son in. Having 3 Chelsea assets means that you've not really been paying attention. You've just been banging up the fact that they should be doing better than they are, but you do forget the fact that Chelsea are mince. Been calling it all along. You've got Semenyo on your bench. He's been doing alright. I do actually reckon that he's going to be doing a little bit better than people give credit for over the course of the season. Estupinian on the bench is fine when they're playing Man United because they are going to probably score against Brighton, who've conceded most game weeks, if not all of them. Having a look at that team, depends if you've got any free transfers or not. I would be getting rid of either Sterling or Jackson. Too many people have Jackson and blanking, and you might want to capitalise that as well, because he's not going to be doing well, as we've discussed earlier on in this video. You might want to be having a look at maybe bringing in maybe Rashford, but there's also the argument, the fact that Maddison's still going to be getting points as well, but tripling up on Spurs, it could work, it might not. I don't really know at this current point in time, because it's only been 4 game weeks and the European fixtures haven't really kicked in as well. You might be wanting to maybe downgrade one of your midfielders and then bring in another striker like Awanyene, who's been getting 4, or Wissa, or try and get Brian Mbeumo, because as we've seen, he's been absolutely banging them in. But so far, it's not the worst team of the day, but it's also not the best. Vardiol as well, might be worth getting rid of him, because you don't want to be playing Pep Roulette and all of a sudden the Stupinian and Henry comes in when they're playing Man United or Newcastle. But it depends how many transfers you have, which way you want to go with that, because you've not given me that information. But that's all we've got time for today. If you are new around here, make sure to drop a sub down below, drop a like on the video, and if you are interested in my team, I will be posting over on Instagram for Saturday morning with my transfer before the deadline, because I'm quite interested to see what you guys think as well about my team. We've been doing amazingly so far, and we'll hope it continues. Get a lot more green arrows up there as well. But I will see you guys next week for the game week 5 review, which will be posted on Monday, maybe before the Nottingham Forest game. It might be Tuesday, just depends on if I can get it done or not and out to you guys. May have to record it before, but we'll see what happens. I will see you then, and make sure to submit your team for next week's team review. Goodbye.